Welcome to EO Talks, Eastern Oregon's very own talk show, only here on EOAlive.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm Bridget Barton, and I am running for governor of Oregon. And I think it doesn't take a lot of explanation to know why someone would think it's important to step in at this point. Our state is in a complete crisis. We are in a long downward spiral, about a 40-year drought of Republican governors. But in that 40 years, the state has done nothing but go downhill on so many metrics. But, you know, in the last 10 years, it's like a rock rolling downhill. It picks up speed, and things seem to have spiraled completely out of control in the last 10 years. So as I looked at the landscape of the state and the problems that we face, I don't need to tell you, probably I'll just quickly list it: homelessness and crime and just a terrible abuse of our rural communities and our blue collar communities out there. Wildfires or natural resources not being used well at all. In fact, being put on the back burner in so many cases. Our energy policy is horrible. And probably at the top of the list, our education system. And during this time of COVID, people have been able to see, parents have finally gotten a firsthand look at how bad the curriculum in our schools is, how poorly the kids are spending their time. They are being indoctrinated, not educated. And that is getting worse also at an alarming rate. Let me start from the beginning. Born in Wisconsin, raised in Williamsburg, Virginia, which, if any of you have had the luck to visit, it's the colonial capital of Virginia and of the United States, really. So I was raised in that environment and had a huge appreciation for the patriots that started our country and the fight for freedom, that they had to make a decision to stand up and fight for freedom. I tell a story that when I was little, I used to, because it's hot in Virginia in the summer, we used to go into the Information Center Theater and watch this movie just to get into the air conditioning. And in the movie they played was called The Story of the Patriot. And it is the story of one family, a father and a son, coming to terms with the fact that they were going to have to make a decision whether they were going to stand up and fight for their freedom, or they were going to knuckle under to the tyranny of the government that was giving them no representation. And it's a really compelling movie that's meant to give the tourists a sort of inspire them to go out and see the town. But for me, when I was a child going in there, I probably saw that movie 300 times. I could recite it by heart. And I can tell you, in a way, I was indoctrinating myself, but I can see when I look back on that, how important that was, that I had those values instilled in me, and the kids today are not getting that. So anyway, that upbringing in Virginia made a big difference. I then moved to the West Coast. My mother is from Omak, Washington, up in north central Washington. And she always told me to come to the Pacific Northwest. So eventually I made my way here. And I do live in West LINN. But I was starting to say, 20, 25 years ago, when I would travel at all, people asked me where I was from. I'd say I was from Portland. You can imagine that I don't say that anymore because Portland has become such an embarrassment for the state of Oregon. And Oregon itself, the 40 years of liberal Democrats running the state have made our state an embarrassment. And we have to end that. We simply must. And this might be our last chance to do so. So I come from a background of public policy and advocacy on issues of business and economic growth and just conservative policies in general. So I've spent the last 30 years of my career working on those issues, and I am an editor and publisher. Some of you might be familiar with Brainstorm Northwest Magazine, business partner, and I published that for 12 years. During the recession, we switched that to an online newsletter called Oregon Transformation. And if you're interested in getting that online in your email inbox, just contact my campaign and we'll get you on board on that. It's quite an interesting newsletter. And what has happened over those years that I've been working on editing and publishing those publications, we've developed a very strong network with business leaders around the state, public policy experts, with political leaders, and media people as well. So I come into this race with lots of experience in those areas. but I don't bring with me a lot of partisan baggage. I've not truthfully been involved in a lot of partisan politics, which I think in this cycle is going to be a definite advantage, and particularly in the general election. My opponents will not be able to tarnish me with a long history record of votes one way or another. And yet I come to you with absolutely rock solid conservative values and a 30-year history that demonstrates that, that's in writing. So along with that, I present sort of a new image of the Republican Party in the sense that I'm a woman for the first time in 40 years. And again, I have media experience, I have policy experience, but I don't have the partisan baggage that might weigh me down in a general election. I'm not likely to be sidetracked by the media because I've had lots of experience being a conservative voice on TV, radio, and in print. So I have a lot of expertise in the issues, and I feel very comfortable that I can win in the general election. So we can talk a little bit more about the specifics of how I plan to run and what I think the science side of it that shows that we have a real shot in this election. But maybe you would like to get a few more questions in. That's a little bit about my background, and I'll tell you more as we go along. So in my community, you might be surprised to know that even though I'm just on the suburban outskirts of Portland, the mood in the suburbs has radically shifted. Even 2 years ago, during the Trump election, the suburbs swung and they went against Trump. And now we're seeing those very same people thinking that they've made a terrible mistake and they're swinging back the other way. We've done some minor polling that shows generally the state overall feels strongly that the state is on the wrong track. And I can tell you that in my town of Westland, I think we're population 27,000, the sentiment has shifted. People are embarrassed about Portland. They're afraid to go downtown. They're very nervous about their personal security, even in our very nice bedroom community. And that is kind of what it is. But you know, now nobody's even working in downtown Portland because of all the mandated closures. So that's a little bit about my community, a little bit more about me. I sure will look forward to getting to know more about the people that I'm talking to right now, to all of you. I think we probably share values more than you might guess. I spend a lot of my time out in the countryside in Canby with my horses, and it's my big hobby when I'm not working, and my children are raised, by the way. I'm married to my husband for 39 years. And in fact, our son is married and lives in outskirts of Portland. And our daughter just got married last week. It's very exciting. And she also lives out in Beaverton. So none of them want to live in Portland. No one wants to live in Portland anymore. People are fleeing the city, as they should. And the left, the Democrat left, should be absolutely ashamed of what they've done to that beautiful town, that beautiful city, and what they've done to the reputation of our state as well. They literally should be ashamed of themselves, and they seem to have no shame at all. They just keep going further. And I would say that is creating an opportunity for the first time in 40 years for a Republican candidate to win in November 2022. And I think it's important that the person that's on the ticket, and I hope it's me, and I hope you'll support me, hope you'll fight with me. But it's important that the person that's on the ticket is someone that people in the suburbs can feel comfortable with, people in rural communities can feel comfortable with, that all those communities can believe that I really will fight for you. I share your values, and I come to this race truly. I'm not looking for a political career. I'm looking to solve the problems that are ruining our state. I want to step in and put a hard stop on the downward decline that we're in and begin to solve some of those most urgent issues. Now, some of them don't have as big of an effect on you guys out in Union County yet, but they will. And I'm sure some of them are already seeping out there. The crime rate, it's outrageous. People are frightened for their personal safety and security, and they should be. Criminals aren't being prosecuted. 911, it's hard to get through. And if you get through, you hope that some police officer will eventually come. But if it's a property crime here in the metro area, they don't come anymore. They just plain don't come. They tell you, take care of it yourself, call your insurance company. So that's the condition we're in. I believe it creates an incredible opportunity for success in the governor's race and in legislative races as well. If we have someone on the ticket that doesn't scare that middle group of voters. I present myself as a problem solver. I present myself as a true conservative. And I have particular expertise, luckily, in the very issues that are the most urgent right now. Education. I've been working on policy and education since the early 90s. I helped bring charter schools to this state. I worked on the ballot measure. I helped craft the legislative bills that passed. I actually wrote articles when it was a brand new concept. And believe it or not, I ran for the legislature in 92 and in 96 in my community here on the charter school issue. That's how long I've been pushing charter schools, for 30 years now. So I'm happy to say that I think we are on the verge of being able to actually push for true education choice, for true school choice. The parents around the state and across the country are finally fed up with the schools. Historical Oregonian. Now, let me think for a second if there's anybody that stands out in my mind. You got me stumped there. I haven't been, as much as I'm a student of history, of Revolutionary War history and such, not so much in Oregon history. So yeah, no, I can't come up with a name that most of the politicians that I could think of in the recent past don't do much for me. Sorry to say. I wish they did, but they don't. So, well, first of all, I'm Roman Catholic, and so I'm a Christian, and I would say that my spiritual beliefs are really who I am. They begin and end me. My beliefs are who I am, and I try to live a life of honesty, a life of gratitude, and of service. Those are the three things that I try to keep foremost in my mind when I wake up in the morning, and when I go to bed at night, I ask myself how I did on those issues. Was I honest? Did I do service for others? And have I been grateful for what I've been given? So one of the main things that people should know about me, if you haven't seen my video, by the way, I do have an introductory video on my website, which is bridgetbartonfororegon.com. And in that introductory video, it explains a bit about me because people listening should know, or watching should know, I kind of made a mess of my life when I was younger. When I was 14, I started drinking alcoholically. And I say I'm Irish Catholic, Irish Catholic alcoholic kind of all blends together. Anyway, I drank alcoholically until I was 28 years old. So I've been in recovery now for 40 years. I'm 68 years old now. And so by the time I stopped drinking, though, I was drinking really around the clock, very chronic alcoholic that quickly, and nearly faced homelessness. I had mountains of debt, and I had been told to leave my job, and I was facing homelessness. And on a couple of different occasions in those last 2 years, when things were very bad, I contemplated suicide. So I chose. Life is a choice. Every day is a choice. And I chose and had to make up my mind, like so many people laying on the streets of Portland choose every day. Do I live or do I die? Do I continue this path or do I try something different? And luckily, and because of the God in my life, I was given a second chance. I was given a moment of clarity where I chose to try to live and to do whatever it took to recover from my alcoholism and move forward. So I have been grateful for every day of those 40 years, a single day at a time of living and having an opportunity to live and be of service. And, when you get a second chance like that from God, you're not supposed to blow it. You just know you're not supposed to blow it. In fact, you really are being called to make the very most of your life, which I have tried to do. I've tried to be a good person, a good wife, a good mother, a good servant in my public life, and do my best in my work and so on. And now with the crises facing us, I feel that some of these skill bases that I have, some of the policy background I have, and in particular what I can bring to the homeless issue, which is intertwined, by the way, with the crime issue, I think I can bring something to that no other candidate on either side of the aisle can bring right now. When I look at people laying on the street, I see myself and I realize these are human beings. They are not trash for us to walk over the top of and ignore, or just enable to keep going and laying on the street and into their addiction further and deeper. This is criminal that we have been doing this for 30 years the same way. There's no excuse for it. There absolutely are solutions for this problem. And what I've begun to see, I'm very pro-life. And what I've begun to see is that there's a continuum of a disregard for life in the culture here in Oregon that we really need to confront and be very serious about, and begin to value our fellow Oregonians at all levels. So, but for me, this is going to start on the streets, because this is something I know. I've spent 40 years working with people in recovery. I've spent time on the board of the DePaul Treatment Center. I do understand what it takes to get people moving out of addiction. Now, can everyone make it into recovery? Probably not. But if we have a couple 100,000 people in various states of alcoholism and addiction, either lying on the streets or suffering silently in their homes, if we can save 20, 25% of those people, that is an absolute must. And for the people who don't want recovery, they have to be treated like human beings, not like trash laying on the street. So there are ways to get people off the streets quickly and to clean up our streets and to get people into recovery programs. And I wonder if people there or anywhere else in the state realize we have in Oregon the highest levels of addiction per capita of any state in the country, and we have the lowest number of treatment beds available per capita of any state in the country. Biggest problem, least resources available. With all the money that we are spending in state government, the idea that we have not confronted this problem head on and done something about it in 30 years of spending money on it and wasting it is criminal. And I would put, as I say, you want to take care, try to get an alcoholic or an addict to stop, you make their life a living hell. You put a hard stop in front of them, and you do it over and over again until the choices become a little more clear to them. That's how it worked for me. That's how it worked for everyone I know who has gotten into recovery. And that's how we have to do it for the people that are on the street. We can't continue what we call compassion. It's not compassion. We're killing those people. It's enabling. And I will put a hard stop to it. And I'll do it 2, 3, 4 times if necessary, clearing them off the street, pushing them toward treatment programs until at least those that have the capacity to make a choice, make the right choice and move forward. I think that one criticism my opponents in the general election are going to level against me is that they'll try to say that I'm not experienced enough because I haven't held public office. And I can't wait for that. I can't wait for them to level that criticism, because my response to that is going to be this. First of all, I have 30 years of public policy experience. I know what's going on in state government. But most important, if they want to waive their 40 years of experience taking this state down into the toilet, that's an experience none of us want to have to relive for one single more year. So I come as a proud outsider to this political race, and I am not a politician coming in, and I'm going to end up being one if I win. But I'm telling you, I'm 68 years old. I'm not trying to build a political career, and they will try to say I don't have the knowledge and expertise I need. I do have the knowledge and expertise. What I don't have is a 40-year track record of failure.
Alrighty, next up is our famous lightning round. So first off, ducks or beavers?
Oh, ducks. I have a duck in the family. I'm not a duck, but he's a duck. So
There you
our
go.
son.
What is your favorite Oregon landmark?
Uh, it's not a big one, but I'm really fascinated by the fossil beds. I love digging in the fossil beds, and I think it was, when I've been there, it's so rare that you can go a place like that and actually go dig in there and find fossils. I just thought that was amazing, and I love that part of the state. I love the whole geography over there, the painted hills, everything. So,
Nice. Do you have a favorite Oregon-based food or beverage?
well, I'm in recovery, so I don't drink wine or beer. I probably fall short on that, picking something there. Food. Well, I have to say, my husband is a state fair blue ribbon winner in his jams, and we always do that together. So the berries, I think, are a big favorite in our family. We love to go pick them wild, and then and we send them to Christmas presents to all our family all over the country, and they love that.
Nice. What is your favorite place in Eastern Oregon?
Well, the fossil beds are there, but I think probably in Eastern Oregon. I mean, it's northeast. Well, the Wallowas, love Wallowa Lake. I think that's just I love wide open spaces. Wisconsin, I don't know if you know, but being born there, it's very flat and open. There's a lot of sky, and so I sort of like that geography. I find that very peaceful. I just want to share again. I hope you'll take the time to get to know me. I know it's hard to know the candidates in the primary, which one is you get to pick what your values are and what principles matter the most to you. But I think it's important that you actually know what each candidate is and who they are and what they are really like as a person, so that you're making a good decision based on facts. And the one thing I just want you to know, that I have never shied away from hard things. I've gotten into recovery. That was not simple. I mean, it was actually simple. But it was hard. I've started my own business. That was very hard. People said, "Conservative magazine, are you crazy?" And we did it, and we succeeded. I break horses. I did that to put my kids through college. It's not exactly the easiest way to put your kids through college, but I'm not afraid of hard things, and I am a fighter. And this race that's coming, it's going to be a fight for the heart and soul of Oregon. And I am up for that challenge. I will not back down. I have nothing to lose. I'm not trying to build a political career. I'm here to solve problems and get our state back on track. So, it's going to be just a very, very ugly fight in the general election. I know I'm the only candidate that can win in the general election. So, God willing, I make it through the primary and get there. And at that point, I'm asking each of you, and even now, to fight with me. We need to fight for our state and take it back and get this state back on the right track, because as the cycles in politics go, this is a kind of a last gasp for us, and we need to make the right choice. We need to get our state back on track. So please, I'll fight, but please fight with me. Thank you.